Take five. Welcome back to another episode of Michelangelo Real Talk. I got a special guest on the show today. Why don't you tell everybody who you are?
My name is Ashley.
All right, Ashley. So I went on one of my videos and I put it out there for anybody who had experiences and struggles with addiction to come on the show to try to help somebody. So why don't you tell us like a little bit what your childhood was like?
I had a good childhood. I was an only child, and um, I guess I lived a very, I don't know. My mom and dad were very strict, and I was
You always had that rebellious streak in you then.
right. I was taken to church every time the church doors were open, whether I wanted to go or not. And we went to a church where it was a very close-knit church. So
Did you not like going to church? I used to go to church when I was younger. Sorry.
I liked it, but like I felt like I was made to go, and
Right.
there was times
And
I
just
did.
like, I feel like in recovery, you can't make somebody, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? You feel like you can make somebody, try to get clean and they'll actually stay clean?
No. And I also think that for the parents watching, that's a good question. Tough love helps better than anything. If you keep bailing the person out and keep helping, then that's making the situation worse.
Right. I definitely agree. I mean, that's tough love is what had to happen to me. I mean, that's pretty much how I ended up, leaving Baltimore. And even though I made a lot of mistakes along the way, I mean, I believe I would have been dead if, I would have had people just made it easy for me. So
Yeah.
what, when was like, do you remember when you started using drugs or alcohol? Like what was your first, by the way? Did you start drinking first or,
Uh, I drank a little bit here and there, 16, 17-year-old. When I
you
was
didn't
8,
start drinking until you were about 16 or 17?
no, I didn't. I was a very good girl, actually.
Good
My
girl.
nickname was Reverend Boone because, and that's so funny because if you said a cuss word around me, I was quick to fix that. But I smoked pot the first time when I was 18, and I'll never forget it. Oh my God, they messed with me so hard. But
So you was
I
a late bloomer then. So
I
you got
was,
into it a little bit later on.
yeah. Um, but of course I liked it, and unfortunately I liked it. Let me put it that way. And then when I was uh, almost 20, I done meth for the first time.
Mm.
And of course, somewhere in between there, I started doing opiates. But I was the type of person that I could do it and lay it down at that point. And then I got married when I was 19, and I had my first child at 21. And then at 23 is when I hit the worst point of my life. And I left my husband, and I got on meth and with a guy that beat me, and he kind of brainwashed me. And let me say this, if you are in a situation that there is a man that does hit you and he tells you he loves you, he don't, because love doesn't hurt.
That's so very true. I'm glad you said that, because me being, you know, an addict myself and, no longer doing the things that I've done, it does, when you say that, it reminds me of what drugs can do to a person. You know what I'm saying? And like we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, just between us, there's when people make mistakes, I mean, we are human, and drugs, they do alter our brain, and we do a lot of stupid stuff on drugs. But when you take away the drugs, I mean, we still have us, and that's just one thing. If you're not on drugs or alcohol, and you're beating your woman, that's I mean, you ain't got nothing to blame it on, man. You know what I mean? So, and I can't stand when guys do that. But yeah, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
But He went as far as holding the gun to my head and pulling the trigger. And there was times that I didn't think that I would make it through the night. And at that point, we weren't sleeping through the night. But a little bit before I got on meth really bad is when my then, but now current ex-husband took custody of my daughter. And I was an amazing mom before I got on drugs. So I spent 6 months doing meth hardcore without my child. And I would get clean a couple days and go with my husband and my child, and it was like I would leave again. And then,
Step back, if you don't mind me saying real quick, that was one thing I really wanted to touch base on too. I know what it's like to be facing probation and or facing jail, back to prison, could lose the relationship, somebody I really care about, everything to lose. And yet I would still use the drug anyway. And I'd feel like shit afterwards, and it's like, why did I do that? Why did I do it? And yet I go ahead and do the same thing. I'll tell the person I'm not going to do it again. Tell myself I'm not going to do it again. And I truly believe it in that moment. And then I go ahead and make the same mistake, and it's like using against your own will is kind of like the way I put it. Have you ever like used against your own will?
that's what I was doing then. It was like,
Right.
it's just, it was like a back and forth cycle. And it was like, I wasn't using drugs almost. Drugs was using me, is the way I
Yeah.
felt. And I finally, I found out I was pregnant with mine and my husband's second child, and I come home, and I didn't touch anything the rest of pregnancy. And then shortly after the second kid was born is when I got on opiates. And in this area, they're plentiful, so
Right.
I did manage to stay at home, and it was like I was maintaining, but I wasn't. And it was like I would lay down at night and pray, God, don't let me die because I've done so much today, type thing.
Right.
And that's when I started going to the methadone clinic. And methadone made me suicidal, and probably one of the hardest things I've ever come off of. So I switched to Subutex and was on that for like 3 or 4 years. And during that time, I did have 2 more children. And I never thought that I would be where I am today. If you would have asked me 7 years ago where I would be when I was 32, I would have told you dead, because
Right.
I would have been, or in prison.
And that's the hope, behind this channel is that, and that's that why we're doing this out of our heart, because I'm 31 and it's like years ago, man, I never thought that I'd make, like, I would always set these goals like, all right, I'm gonna die by 21. And the way I used to live was really wild too. So it's like, I'm not gonna make it. And then I make it at 21, I was like, all right, I'm gonna die before I'm 25. And I lived like that for so long, man, and it's such a horrible way to live. But to touch back onto the methadone, because that's one thing I kind of want to talk about too. Methadone, in my opinion, is just a legal way for the government to have you hooked on their drugs. I mean, it's like heroin without the high. You know what I mean? And it's, in my opinion, one of the hardest things to kick. It's one of the hardest things to come off of.
Yeah.
I mean, would you not say so? I mean, like, it's like, I mean, I heard this stuff sticks into your spine. And the thing is, too, they always want to up your milligram. I mean, and, people will be on that for 5 or 10 years, and I'm like a big supporter of, when you go to treatment, a lot of times I'd see people walk out because the detox was so bad. So I do believe people, they need to have something to detox off, so that way they can see how their life is starting to change and better. But, there's a difference between substituting one drug for another and then trying to come off of it, and one thing, methadone, I mean, a lot of people die off methadone, and to me, I mean, I did Subutex as well, and I felt better and more like alert on Subutex than I did methadone. Was you like the same way, or?
Yeah, my body felt heavy on methadone, I guess. And it was like I was tired and I was depressed and it was awful. It was an awful feeling almost instead of like it's like I would say I went to get help and my husband would say, no, you traded one drug for another. And he was my backbone and Brad was not he lived a hard childhood and he didn't do drugs. So he was there to help me because, well, he loved me. And I'm very fortunate to have the people that I had to love me when I was going through what I went through. But no, methadone is, I don't know, I call it the devil. I don't know.
I mean, I agree with you. I completely agree. And, it just made me think of something real quick. One thing I think, that we really don't think about in the time of it is, but our kids, and because you said that he had a troubled childhood and all that, and it's like, we battle with our own demons, but we don't realize like how much that our kids are really affected by the decisions that we make in active addiction. And just every family is different, everybody's different. You never know what that child may have been through or had seen. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just like doing it to try to better yourself. It's doing it because if you have kids, it's their lives as well. You know what I mean?
Well, earlier on in my childhood, before my dad started going to church, he was an addict and he was an alcoholic, and he went to rehab when I was 4. And I don't think I'll ever forget leaving him at rehab and him crying, and it was awful. And I said that I would never do that to my kids, and then history has a big way of repeating itself. So especially if you have kids, the kids are what suffers.
Right.
And unfortunately, I had to find that out the hard way. But during the amount of time of me and Brad being separated, I did try to commit suicide, and he did have me put somewhere, and it was awful. It was just like it was a short period of time, but I learned a lot in that short period of time.
Right. And I was suicidal at times. I remember being off North Tryon Street. My phone's dying. Being off North Tryon Street and being in this hotel and literally shooting dope, trying to kill myself. Like I had suicide notes already written out, and I tried to kill myself. And the craziest thing about it is, the times that I overdosed, I did not intentionally do it. And then the times that I intentionally tried to die, I didn't. I woke up, and it's crazy because like every time the high comes down, and you're sick or whatever the situation is, it's like all that garbage and all the bad shit that we done, it's like we feel it, you know what I'm saying? And like we see it and we don't want to, it's so hard to face. It's like, but at the same time, and there is a lot of people that, are going to commit suicide because they feel like there's no other way out. But yet here we are, both me and you, and we've both been through the same situations. And even though we grew up on completely different ways, in the city, and then you in the country, but it's like, yet we identify completely alike. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, man. If I could say anything, be to somebody, that feels suicidal, is that just not to do it, because no matter what you're going through, you know what I'm saying, you can always work your way out of it. And one of the great things that I love about doing what I'm doing is that, so you sit here and you share your story and your pain and your experiences, but then here you are today, a completely different person. You know what I mean? And that's that's the point of this, is that no matter what, that it is possible. But the fact that that you went through that shit's real, man. You know what I mean? I mean, if you want to go ahead and tell a little bit more about it, that's up to you.
And I also want to say, if you feel hopeless, you're not. You're really not. And if you feel helpless, you're not either. So
right, the help's out there. The help's here.
It is, yeah, it's everywhere. And if you're a battered woman, you don't have to stay there. You're a lot stronger than you think you are. I promise.
Let me ask you this though, because I just thought of this, not to interrupt you, but have you ever felt, because like you were just saying that everything you said is so true, but have you ever felt like embarrassed, or like, so me, the reputation I've got, there was times where I felt embarrassed, like yo, I'm dying inside, I'm crying, I want to blow my brains out, but I don't want to say nothing at the same time. Have you ever been in that situation?
Yeah, because society tells us that we're weak if we say stuff like that, and we're not. A lot of the times I have learned, taking psychology, that addiction and, like, a lot of the time some kind of psychiatric disorder goes hand in hand. So there's usually a reason that you're feeling that way. And like, there's more people than you realize that love you and is willing to help you. So definitely, if you don't ever feel embarrassed, like, we live in a small town and everybody knows what I've done, unfortunately. And it's like, now I live kind of where my addiction started, almost just a couple miles down the road. And I go in the convenience store where I used to work, and nobody knows who I am. And that's probably one of my greatest victories ever, is unless I speak, nobody knows.
Right.
And you can be that different of a person.
Absolutely.
Like, I went from being homeless 7 years ago to almost 2 years ago, me and my husband bought a home. And I never saw that in my future.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things with me too, man, is that I truly believe that it's not our good times that define us. It's all the pain and everything that we've been through that makes us stronger. And as much as, like, I hate to say, oh, I'm stronger than this person, or stronger than that, because that's not the point of it. But when you really do go through that life, and you've been homeless, and you have literally cried yourself like to sleep because you hate life in every aspect. You don't know what you're gonna do. Just your stomach is rumbling because you're so damn hungry. You know what I mean? At the same time, you're dope sick, and you know that you don't want to do it, or you know that you don't need to do it, but you want to do it because you want to feel better. I mean, to go through all that, and then to now have your own home, and to be raising your kids and doing what you need to do, to me, that's strength that people need to hear. And as much as I'm not trying to talk down on nobody that has done good their whole life, I'm not. However, what I'm trying to say, though, is that I strive for success because of everything I've been through. That no matter how much my heart hurts, or no matter how bad life gets, because we can't control what life comes at us. We can only choose how we react to it, and mastering that is like, I don't know, I feel like I can actually accomplish something in life. You know what I'm saying? Because I used to be that person that acted on impulse. I used to be that person that I meant well, but I just somehow would always screw up. But it's, no matter what I've been through, no matter how much I get wronged, I just focus on my reactions and how I can use that as my fuel to do better in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like, I mean, I don't know, I feel like I can almost accomplish anything because everything that we've been through, I mean, because we faced death. I mean, we faced all these obstacles, and it's not like that, uh, people get clean and life is easy, because it's not, but it's just how we deal with things these days.
And you find out too, when you get clean, you have a purpose.
Right.
So you might not know what your purpose is, but eventually you'll know what that purpose is. Like why we made it and why we're here. And like to me that's like a good feeling. And like I don't know. I do try to go to church now at this point now that I'm older. And like I do believe that prayers has got me this far too. If you do believe that way, prayers help a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe that, it's good for us to have a higher power. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I personally believe in the Lord, but I doing this, and being around for as long as I've been in situations where people get turned away when they hear the word God, where
Right.
I say good orderly direction. I believe that we have to have, like you said, a purpose, like and it's funny that you say that because my grandma passed away a few months ago. And my grandfather, he felt lost, because he was like, every man has got to have a purpose. And that my grandmother was his purpose, and it's like, as much as, and see, that's like for me, I want a family, I mean, I want the better things in life. And, a lot of time, like when I was younger, man, I always, I always wanted to do the craziest and stupidest things. But then you get older and then you like realize what's important in life, and like if you would ask me, man, having a few good friends and a family, that's the most important thing, man. Kids are the greatest gift in the world, if you ask me. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
and then when we get our lives together, man, our kids, they grow up. I mean, they just they're in a better environment. You know what I'm saying? They have a better chance of growing up and doing something positive with their life. You know what I mean? Because there's so many people and kids that get brought up into the, drugs and they become an addict themselves. I mean, I want to try to do something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's like with my kids, I everybody says I'm super mom, and
Mom.
I do a lot, of that most women couldn't do, but I do
But that's
it.
an awesome feeling too, super mom. Compared knowing that where you was and to
Oh
be
yeah,
called super mom. I mean, I know I used to get called a hero, and I tell you, as much as I don't hear that anymore, I'll never forget that. You know what I'm saying? And it does. It gives you the greatest feeling in the world.
yeah. Like I never saw myself as a stay-at-home mom, and I never saw myself having over one child. But I am a stay-at-home mom of now four children. So
That's
I am
awesome.
part of the PTO, and I do extra things. And I just said do. I'm sorry, I had to.
Ah, you do.
I Yeah, you can tell I have kids. Anyways, um, but
Hey, a lot of people have kids. This is, this is like I said, it's exactly what this is real talk. You know what I'm saying? Do.
yeah, I could just hear Bubba saying, "Mommy, you said do." Anyways, but like it's like
And it's good, we can laugh today. I don't know about you, but I can tell you back in the day, man, and people that know me know, I mean, there wasn't no laughing out of me. So, to be able to laugh, you know what I'm saying, and to feel today. I mean, like I can feel, and it's not always good. You know what I'm saying? Like I hurt, you know what I'm saying? Life is not always sunshine and rainbows, but my life is so much better than what it was when I was sticking a damn needle in my arm.
it's like when you are in active addiction, you don't have feelings really. Like
Right. We suppress those feelings, wouldn't you say?
yeah, yeah. I think like the only thing that I kind of had was anger almost, like
I
and
did. Anger and resentment.
sadness more. I guess more so than anything.
They say that the number one killer for, well, the number one basically killer of, recovery is resentments, anger. And, I had a sponsor in Charlotte, great sponsor, man. named Alan. He's a great guy. And he would always say that everything derives from fear of something, you know, and the way he would put it, it would make sense. Like, you know, your fear of losing this person. So it comes out in anger. You know what I'm saying? It all boiled down to fear, anger, resentment.
Yeah, it's like you only feel bad, like bad feelings.
And we hate ourselves. We hate
Yeah.
ourselves.
There's so much, and I think that's why so many people on drugs commit suicide, is because they do hate themselves.
Right.
And I don't know, it's not easy to not be an active addict. It's not, but it's worth it. Like the outcome of not having to rely on something to get you through the day is amazing.
Right. And, you know, I feel like I spent so, like, I have so much more time with my life. You know, there was times where it was, you know, I spent so much time consuming on just trying to use, you know what I'm saying, that I forgot how to live. You know what I mean? And there's always been like a lot of people that say, you know, they try to tell you about addiction or they try to help you, but it's people that never experienced it. And in my opinion, if you've never been through and walked through my shoes and understand my pain, excuse me, you two, but how the fuck are you going to tell me you know how I feel when you really never been in my situation? You know, and that's what it's so important to me, is that like you said, you know, the people that are going to commit suicide because they just don't see no other way. And, you know, now me and you can see that there is other ways. But at that time, we both know as well what it feels like to not feel that there is no other way.
Yeah, like I felt almost like my world had just caved in. And I can look back and I can watch how my life declined in just like 16 months time. It's insane. Like absolutely crazy. It's like a downhill roller coaster. And then when I started using opiates, we lost everything we had, because that's where money went. And you don't realize that you like put your heart, your soul, your everything in to use it.
Yeah. What, I mean, you know, just curiosity, what was harder for you to quit? Was it the opiates or was it, you know, the methamphetamine? What was hard, or like, yeah, what would you say was the hardest thing that, you know, it was to kick?
Opiates, for sure.
So, and what would be like, so if there was somebody that, you know, is watching this and that is struggling from opiates, from an, you know, from your point of view, what would you say to them? You know, like if they were asking you, you know, what do I do? Do I go to methadone? Do I go to Suboxone? Do I just quit it cold turkey? If they said, you know, Ashley, what do I do? What would be the advice that you give that person?
I would tell them to go get on Subutex. Or
And Subutex, that's supposed to be like, that's one of the detox drugs that is one of the safest drugs for pregnant women. Is that correct?
correct. They used to say methadone was, but now
That's not true.
they are trying to get people off methadone that is pregnant on Subutex.
I think Subutex is easier to come off of. I feel like they're not, like, you know, I remember there's some things I'll just never forget. I remember all over North Avenue, man, you know, and what was that? Damn, there was this market down there. But people, I mean, just nodding out, and it's not from the heroin. It's, you know, it's actually from the methadone. You know what I'm saying? And Suboxone doesn't do that to you. You know what I mean? And I just feel like Suboxone, you can be more of Suboxone or Subutex. You could be more of who you actually are. You know what I'm saying? To me,
Yeah.
like I said, methadone is just like a legal heroin without the high.
I've said that about Suboxone and Subutex. Is it like it's more makes you more you?
Right.
Like,
That's how I felt. You know what I'm saying? I felt like more of me. I didn't feel drained and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. I don't know how I would say, like I'm nobody to say, how long somebody should be on a drug. That's up to that person. But
Everybody's
huh?
everybody's different.
Right. And see, like, do you believe that Subutex, like, cause I believe it could be a long-term maintenance drug. If taking Subutex helps you from sticking the needle in your arm, you know what I'm saying? Now, of course, the goal is to never have no dependencies upon anything. However, coming from sticking a needle in your arm, shooting dope, or however you do your drugs, I mean, Subutex can save a life, man. And I've seen there's so much debate about it, but I truly believe it can save a life.
10 to 1, I think that Subutex is, or Suboxone is a whole lot better to use long term, if that's what you have
It's all what you do with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, wouldn't you agree? Like, if you want to use drugs, you're gonna use drugs. If you want to take the Subutex and use it the correct way and try to change your life, raise your kids, be a real man or be a real woman, you could do that. And if you want to go ahead and abuse it, you're gonna abuse it. I mean, wouldn't you say?
Use it, not abuse it, for sure.
There you go. Use it, not abuse it. All right. So, and then what would you said that I remember you telling me that you were doing something to help women or something. What was you telling me the other day?
Oh, there's a battered women's shelter.
Yeah. See, we're getting ready to wrap it up. So if you want to go ahead and like try to let some of the information that you might have to give somebody that needs help.
Well, I mean, if you're in a situation where you are being beaten, you can call 911, of course, and if it's bad enough, for sure do it. But and then if there's somebody that can come and get you out, there is battered women shelters all around. We live in a super small town, and we have one in the town of Burnsville. Like there's plenty of people that can help you. So just don't stay there. Don't stay in that situation. And no, I don't believe in divorce. I do believe in staying married. But if you're being beaten, I said it earlier, love doesn't hurt.
Right. And, I agree.
And if they're hitting you, they don't love you. I'm sorry.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I completely forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, people, you can always call 911, but they also have hotlines and stuff like that. And, I always say people can reach out to me, I really, if you ever have it, anybody has experience with, like what she just, told her story, hit me up. And, this is how we help people this is just my opinion, people sharing their story and experience and strength and hope, and that we can relate and been through the same thing, and knowing that you can change your life. Like she said, no matter how helpless you feel, hopeless, if you're homeless, no matter what your situation is, you can always get out of it. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work for it. But there is people that, do that every single day.
Oh, yeah. And, I've heard Mike say on several of his videos, if my story helps one person, it's worth it. And a lot of battered women doesn't like to relive that time. And I know that I myself have tried to suppress the memories. But, if I go in depth and told the story, then it's hard to relive. But it's worth it to tell my story. If it helps one person, then it's worth it.
That's right. And, that's why we're doing this. But everybody, please like and subscribe. And I want to thank Ashley for coming on the show and, sharing her experience and, her pain and struggles. Because it's not easy to do all the time. You know what I mean? To open up, like I'm still in the beginning of all this. And it's hard. It brings up emotions when, we talk about those things. But knowing that we lived in that and done that, and that we overcame that. That's what the message is, that, no matter what you're going through, you can always change. You know what I mean? So please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Till next time.